once again for Catalog and Cocktails. It's your honest, no BS, non-salesy conversation about enterprise data management. I'm Tim Gasper, joined by Juan Cicada. Hey, Juan.
Tim, it is always a pleasure to hang out with you and hang out with amazing guests to be in people's ears, and so we can chat about the cool thing and people can go learn. And today is all our guests are awesome, but this is a very special guest for me because our guest is Professor Oscar Corcho, professor in the Technical University of Madrid, the UPM, and Oscar is arguably the reason why I am where I am right now, because Oscar is the person who introduced me to this whole concept of the semantic web and ontologies. That was, I think, around 2004, 2005, I think. 2005, I think it was. I was actually starting my undergrad in Cali, Colombia, at the Universidad del Valle, and Oscar was gave a seminar, and I learned about that stuff, and that's how I got hooked. And so 20 years later, here we are. Oscar is the reason one of the reasons, most part reasons, he's the one who introduced me to all this stuff. Anyways, Oscar, it is such a true pleasure and honor to have you here on the podcast and chat with you. How are you doing?
Good, really good. And I'm really happy. You always say that, you are the reason. I am the reason why you are over here, but probably it's also because of you, yeah. But in any case, yeah, I have been working on ontologies for a long time, yeah. So probably, a good reason to talk today about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar, when you first started working with Juan, did you foresee that he was headed on this trajectory, that you were going to create this maven of knowledge graphs?
I didn't create it, yeah, but I could see quite immediately. You can. When you are working with lots of students, you realize who are the good ones, the really, really extremely good ones, and the normal ones. Yeah, that must be all types of students. Yeah, he was one of those top stars. Yeah, clearly.
That's awesome.
Hey, so before we dive into this, what we're going to talk about ontologies, well, tell and toast. Honest, no BS. We are recording. It is still early in the day and stuff, but what would we be drinking right now? What would you be drinking right now? What do you want to toast for, Oscar?
Well, what I will do once that we finish, yeah. So we are not going to. I'm not going to stop, yeah, right now, yeah. So, probably, Juan, yeah, and I'm normally brewing my own beer. Yeah, it's not a fancy cocktail, yeah, that as you normally take. Yeah, I know that you mix lots of things. In my case, I only mix malt, hops, and water. Yeah, that's that's the recipe. But I still do it. Yeah, I started more than 10 years ago. Yeah, doing that. Sometimes the result was horrible. Yeah, I always tell everybody that as a scientist, you should just record every single step that you do in your experiments. But obviously, when you are brewing beer, you are also taking beer as well. You are also drinking it. Yeah. So sometimes you forget to record every single detail. Yeah, on the recipe, and you never knew when it was good and when it was bad. What was the reason? Yeah. So it was not a fully controlled experiment. Yeah, but saying that, yeah, this time, I had a very nice lot, yeah, that I was able to produce with one of my friends. So probably I could be taking a beer, yeah, of my own reserve.
I love that. Actually, I don't think everybody's. Beer is the type of a cocktail, right? You are mixing stuff in there. But all right, well, there's so much to unpack here, and I just want to kick it off here. So, Oscar, honest, no BS. Now everybody is an ontology expert, right? So just tell us a little bit kind of ontologies and where you're coming from. And kind of, I think this is the moment that I really want people to understand, there's a large history of this. People are listening to this. They're getting excited about knowledge graphs have been coming up because of LLMs, and ontologies is now a popular thing. Where has this been coming from? And kind of share a little bit of history and where do you think where are we today and where is this going?
Well, if we really need to go back to history, yeah, and talking about ontologies themselves, yeah, as artifacts, yeah, that we use in computer science, yeah, in general. So probably, I mean, we should go to the 90s. Yeah, it's already 35 years ago or something alike. Yeah. So basically, I mean, like there was a movement, especially, starting in the US, which was related to the fact that when we were building those AI systems, early AI systems, yeah, that have almost nothing to do, but a lot of things also to do with the current ones. And we were trying to encode and to represent knowledge over there in those AI systems. There was, like a big concern about the amount of time that was needed in order to encode knowledge. Yeah, I mean, like to go to the domain experts, to the people who have the knowledge. Yeah, try to talk to them, try to get all the details of how they were working with the domain, how they were solving problems, and so on. So there was something, a kind of an initiative that was called the Knowledge Acquisition Initiative, that was really relevant in order to understand, how can we actually make sure that the time that we spend on building those knowledge bases, or encoding all that knowledge, is not spent a lot of times. It's only spent once, and then we can reuse. So this is what it was called, the knowledge acquisition bottleneck. And then from that time, people started working on that idea, on saying, okay, wait, are not we able to encode knowledge in a way that is modular? That we can just, make sure that we can share things, share experiences. And then, the world of ontologies starts, at that point in time, Then there are plenty of other things, that are happening, like on the formal languages, on how you actually do it. But the original idea, it's coming really from the 90s, from the early 90s, Mm-hmm.
So that's the 90s, and people start working on this stuff. And then, so we're now, people are listening to ontologies today. So what has happened between that time and what have been the let's call it the quiet advances that's happened over all that time, and what should people be paying attention to right now?
Probably, we may make an analogy on how data was managed, at the very beginning, So, in the same way, as when people were starting to work with data, data itself, they started thinking, oh, which are the best models to encode the data? How do we represent it? Which are the languages that we have to use? And then SQL, arose, as a standard. And then, the database management systems started being more stable, and robust, and they are the ones that we are using nowadays for most of the applications. Something similar happened in the world of ontologies, So there was a lot of work being done, first of all, on languages, on the formal languages, like the programming languages, Which are the languages that we have to use in order to encode knowledge, And nowadays, we are working with something that is called OWL, Web Ontology Language, which is definitely, the standard, the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium standard to represent ontologies. There was also a lot of work on the methodological side. How do you devise methods to encode your knowledge, to create your ontologies? How do you make it properly? And we are still working on that. Like in the last couple of years, we are working on how LLMs, large language models, can be used for building ontologies, for helping us on building ontologies. And there was also quite a lot of work on tools. From very early tools. I still remember some early web interfaces in the beginning of the web. Where building an ontology was just filling a form. And that was super cool. To tools that are nowadays used, that are more or less like integrated development environments. Like development environments, where ontologies are just yet another artifact that you use in order to build your applications. Mm-hmm. So those are all the things, that have been happening around. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there was anything when going back to like the 90s and early 2000s that people were thinking about ontologies that was very different about how they're thinking about things today, or do you feel like Actually, it's kind of the same. It's more like we're just coming back to it again. Like, do you feel like the framing and the concept has changed, or do you think it's actually mostly the same?
Probably, I mean, I would say that the core concept has not changed so much. So basically, it's again the same idea of trying to encode knowledge, yeah. I mean, and try to make it as reusable as possible. So you try to make your best model, yeah, so that it reflects everything that is in the domain, and that has not changed so much. But I mean, there are things that have changed as well, obviously, yeah. Okay, so I mean, like for instance, I mean, in the 90s, when I started working there, I mean, I started working on the late 90s. I was not one of the creators, yeah, of the ontology wave, yeah, in that world, but I was one of the, let's say, early adopters, yeah, in that sense, as a student. Those cases were more of toy examples, yeah. I mean, like prototypes, things that you were exploring, things that were not going into real applications. Yeah, I mean, like they were more like proofs of concept and prototypes. Nowadays, I mean, like most of the work that I have to do nowadays are really based on the idea of okay, I mean, like we have data models that are heterogeneous across different organizations, and we need to build ontologies in order to create the common understanding of a domain, yeah, and we need to make sure that everything can interoperate, yeah, that the data silos can really interoperate, that you can bring things together, and then you are working on ontologies just to create that common meaning, yeah. So basically, I would say that the main change has been not really on the core concept, on the core, let's say, theoretical concept or abstraction that we normally use, but really on where they are being used. Yeah, and nowadays, I mean, I see a lot of use on this semantic interoperability, data interoperability context, which is the core part where I'm working. I mean, like nowadays, most of my projects are based on that. Mm-hmm.
So it's gone from the kind of theoretical abstract and prototyping phase to now very deeply applied. And, over the course of the last few decades here, the standards and the innovations and the graph databases and things like that have evolved to properly do applied ontologies.
Exactly. I agree with that.
One of the things that I've always appreciated working with you, Oscar, is that yes, you're a professor and you do the theory and academia, but you're also you apply this, and then the semantic interoperability is one of those key kind of things that people, I argue that they've always kind of brushed it underneath the rug. They don't think about it that much, but they kind of do the work, and they don't realize that they're doing that work. And that's why you end up with all these point-to-point connections. Can you share kind of your experience, how you've been applying ontologies in your projects? What are your favorite projects, whatever, to enable that semantic interoperability through ontologies?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, if you want, I mean, I can just talk about a couple of examples of things that we are doing. Yeah. So, I mean, like for instance, I mean, like in the past couple of years, things that I have been working with. Yeah. So, for instance, I mean, one of the cases that I was working with was with a company that had lots of data centers. And I mean, like, I mean, the complexity of data centers is increasing, yeah, in the sense of, I mean, it's not anymore just, I mean, like CPUs, yeah, that you have in a rack, and they are all connected together. But obviously on those CPUs, you have lots of virtual servers, virtual machines, microservices working over there, and so on. I mean, like the usual infrastructure that you have for normal production-based systems, also for DevOps, in general. And in that case, for instance, I mean, we were building an ontology, a network of ontologies, several modules, that could interoperate with each other, so as to describe all the things that are being deployed in data centers, in federated, in distributed data centers. Why? Because one of the needs that they have is that increasingly the system administrators, they are now called, I think that, I mean, like a data center engineers or something alike. I mean, like it's a very brand new name, but it's system administrators plus, yeah? Okay. They really needed to understand when there was a failure, where the failure was, where the root cause of the failure was coming from. And the situation was that there were so many elements in the logs, in the databases, in different databases as well. From the assets that they have and also the services that they have deployed, that it was extremely difficult for them to understand where the failure was coming from. What could be the causes for the failure? Yeah. So we were building those set of ontologies just to describe the domain, just to be able to, take the logs and generate knowledge graphs out of the logs that we have according to that ontology, and then being able to run queries as you run them in a normal database. Yeah, let's say, yeah. So this was one case, yeah, that we did a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, and it was quite nice, yeah. But there are others, yeah. Recently we have been working in for 3+ years on an ontology for the infrastructure for railways in Europe. So this has been with an agency that is in charge of trying to homogenize all the data that is coming from the railway infrastructure. Like trains and things alike, yeah, and tracks and stations and all these weird things, yeah, that happen in the railway system. And they needed to homogenize the data across the 20+ countries that we have in Europe, in the European Union. And as you can imagine, every country has its own standards, its own way of representing data, its own characteristics of how they determine a position in the track. And we were just building ontologies in order to make sure that we could have a combined, a unified knowledge graph out of from this aspect, yeah, from this context. So basically, these are examples of the typical types of applications that we are now doing, where ontologies play a central role. They are the starting point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love this railway example, because really shows the heterogeneous, how heterogeneous the data is, and how different you need to get it connected. Which begs the question is how do you achieve this alignment and this agreement, right? This shared understanding. And your background expertise is about ontology engineering methodology. So in a nutshell, what are your suggestions for people who are starting around this? So okay, here's how you actually start to get agreement, and what is that process?
Mm-hmm. So basically, I always say that the ontologies are in the end, like a software artifact. It's an artifact, yeah, that we generate, yeah. But creating them takes time. Yeah. You need time to get agreements, yeah. Between people, between systems, yeah, information systems that you have, and it is not something that you can do in a single morning. Yeah, so this is one of my recommendations whenever I'm contacted by somebody who wants to start working on ontologies for whatever reason. Yeah, they want to start working on interoperability. Addressing interoperability issues that they have. I always tell them, okay, well, this is not just a question of a morning. Yeah, you are not going to solve it in the morning. Yeah, it's not like a simple database model that you build, very quickly, and then you can start building applications on top of that, or a JSON model, or whatever else. It's just something where you have to put people together. You may put also, AI agents together, yeah, just to talk about it, yeah. And then, you have to make agreements, yeah. You have to make sure that whenever you are talking about the track, you understand the same things about the track, and these are the attributes that the track has. And this is what you mean by having this specific attribute on a track. Yeah, it's not that it is on the track itself. It may be on the top of the track. These are the things that you have to discuss. Yeah, sometimes you have standards and you have conventions that are using the domain, and they can be used for this purpose. Yeah, and that's great. That's the best situations. Sometimes you only have agreements between people who have been talking to each other. But when we are talking to each other, we are a little bit vague. Yeah. So whenever it comes into the moment when you have to draw the things and to specify formally what you are doing, then there are strong discussions, yeah, strong arguments over there.
So here's a question that extends a little bit about this agreement thing is the concept of organizational governance, right? And what do you see as the intersection between ontologies and governance?
Wow. In fact, I mean, like I now, for instance, supervising a PhD thesis on ontology governance itself. Yeah.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
very, very much into this topic. Yeah. I mean, like it is an intersection of ontology and data governance. Yeah. I mean, like in general. So basically, I mean, like it's extremely important not just to consider the ontologies as a technical artifact. This what I mean when you were asking me about which are the differences from I mean 30 years ago and nowadays, this is also one of the differences. Yeah, before I mean you were just building an ontology, you were probably implementing it in an ontology language, and that was all. Yeah, you deliver it, and my work had finished, and I could go away. Yeah, okay. Nowadays, I mean it is not the case. Yeah, so every single project that I'm dealing with now has a lot to do with the governance of those ontologies, but also, I mean, in the context of the organizational governance that you are working with. Yeah. So just to give you another example, yeah, we are working on the data space for tourism in Spain, which is, again, I mean, like promoted by the Spanish, one of the Spanish ministries, yeah, that is dealing with tourism. And over there, I mean, we have, I mean, more than 1,000 agents, people, yeah, I mean, organizations that can provide data into the tourism data space. We are working on the ontologies, and there is a core ontology that can be extended with different types of tourism. Yeah, I mean, tourism related to beaches, to mountains, to religion, to, I mean, food, yeah, which is a very nice thing in Spain as well. I mean, like a very nice way of attracting tourists, yeah. And then, I mean, all of them, all of these actors, stakeholders, they are contributing to the ontology, but there are rules, clear rules on how they can contribute to the ontology, and there are governance schemes, yeah, committees that take decisions on that thing. I mean, like we are using as a technical artifact GitHub for maintaining issues, yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, I mean, I'm one of the gatekeepers of the GitHub repository of that core ontology, and I received, I mean, I think that 50 issues, yeah, on things that were not, I mean, like coping with one of the use cases, yeah. So my team has to deal with it in a few weeks, yeah, time now.
So in many ways, an ontology is like a software product, right? And I know for those of the people who are listening who are more steeped in ontologies, they would say like, yeah, of course, like you treat it like code, right? But like for those who are maybe a little less familiar, you know, I think it's good to hear you say like things like checking it into a repository, collaborating around it, having branching, having issues, having versioning, like having tests. Like these are important things related to an ontology.
Definitely. And this is, I mean, like the normal software development practices that you are using for software. They are used for ontologies, I mean, nowadays. Yeah. And you use the same terms, yeah, for every single term. I mean, the only thing that changes is that you're not talking about functions or classes in the I mean, in the object-oriented paradigm or something alike. You're talking about classes, properties, and so on. Yeah, but I mean, they are the same. I mean, they are versioned and evolving in the same manner. Yeah.
Right. And governance, right? Like I think, you know, over the last couple of decades, I think this concept of data governance has started to become matured a little bit. Now with like Gen AI and things like that, people have been extending, oh, well, what about AI governance? What is that, right? And I think people are realizing that, oh, AI governance is very similar actually to data governance. There's just some areas of uniqueness, like, okay, bias, right? We didn't think about bias as much for, you know, data governance, but we do think about it for AI governance. You know, for ontology governance, is it kind of similar to like AI governance, where it probably has a lot in common with data governance, but has some unique aspects?
They have some very unique aspects, yeah. I mean, like in the sense of agreements, yeah. How can you dissolve an agreement that was done before by an organization, or how can you contribute to something else? I mean, if you provide a different perspective, yeah. Okay, so I mean, like just in the example of tourism, if we have a category, I mean, a categorization of the types of establishments, yeah, where you can get food in Spain. Obviously, I mean, like there is the usual ones that we all understand, yeah, restaurants, bars, I mean, like beach places, yeah, where you can have your mojito or whatever else, yeah. But then there are also special places, yeah, that are coming out from a single region in Spain. Yeah, I mean, like in Galicia, there is something that is called furancho. Yeah, okay. I mean, a very strange term that probably you don't know of. But well, I mean, it was just a place that was dedicated to selling wine. That was the excess wine, yeah, that you had produced, yeah. And they are now offering, I mean, like a food, like a food experience over there, yeah. So all those cases, I mean, they come in at that moment in time. They bring new terms, new concepts, new ideas, probably new changes in the categorization. And then those are the aspects that are a little bit different to software. But somehow, I mean, they could be equivalent to adding a small new functionality in the software. Yeah, and adding a new term in a drop-down list, for instance. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that could bring a new issue, a request in software development.
Mm-hmm. So to touch on the AI, well, the AI today, right, which is LLMs and generative AI. So big, broad, just a broad question and comment in general is like, how are you seeing right now ontologies and LLMs coming together? So one is, how are you seeing LLMs being used to help building ontologies, but also how are you seeing ontologies working within the LLMs? What are your experiences seeing this right now?
I was basically going to say, I mean, that there are these two perspectives. Yeah. Okay. So using LLMs for building ontologies is something that we cannot question. Yeah, I mean, like it's clearly something that we are introducing now in our normal methods. Yeah, okay, it's making us a little bit more productive. It's giving us ideas. Yeah, when we are thinking about the requirements. Yeah, that in terms of ontologies, in many cases, they are called competency questions. I mean, it's like use cases. Yeah, I mean, that's somehow. I mean, in software. Yeah. So we use LLMs, yeah, just to get ideas, yeah, of, oh, we want to encode this domain. What do you know about this? What do you know about these trains and tracks? And I mean, what else can you tell me? Yeah, okay. And then at different phases of the ontology engineering methodologies, we are introducing LLMs as a new technique, that can help us in being more productive, in I mean, like giving us additional ideas, improving our work, basically, yeah, or generating tests and so on, yeah. So basically, I mean, something that is also happening in the software engineering domain, yeah. The other part is introducing ontologies and knowledge graphs in LLMs. Okay, and most of the work that I have seen so far, this doesn't mean that it is all the work, yeah, because I mean, this world is going so fast that sometimes, I mean, you don't know what's going on. But most of the work that is going on right now is really using ontologies and knowledge graphs as a way to, I mean, like avoid hallucinations or reduce hallucinations, guide the reasoning process of LLMs and so on. Yeah, basically, I mean, like there are techniques like RAG, yeah, retrieval augmented generation, where ontologies and knowledge graphs can be one of the sources, yeah, that can be used in that context. And then, I mean, it can give a little bit of more context to the LLM for solving tasks, yeah. So these two sides are active areas of research right now, yeah. Research and deployment, I mean, like now the cycle between research and innovation is so quick, yeah, that sometimes, I mean, you cannot differentiate it anymore, yeah. So things in research are put in production next day, yeah. But in any case, yeah, these are the two sides, yeah, of the relationship between ontologies and LLMs. Mm-hmm.
That is interesting, that that comment that you made just now about like the lines being blurred, that you know, maybe more so than ever, kind of ontologies and knowledge management, you know, is very tightly being pulled into the industry realm. Like it's not just a research kind of happening in academia, and there have been times in the history of ontologies where it's been a little bit more in the back room, right? It feels like it's very much in the front room right now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That's
I
exciting.
I see it. I mean, it's super exciting. Yeah? I mean, like sometimes, I mean, like we are given the task. I mean, I work at academia, in academia. I have been also working in industry, yeah. But I mean, suddenly, I mean, you receive a request for, I don't know. I mean, like recently, I received a request for having a team of 10 people immediately working on a specific topic, yeah, from industry. I mean, which means, well, I mean, like you have to be completely prepared, yeah. which sometimes, I mean, you don't have that size of a team, for working directly. I mean, like just moving them to a specific project. So this means, I mean, that there is a need for this, and also, I mean, it's a good moment for dealing with this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go to our lightning round, tools. This is something that we're seeing, and arguably, I think this is the part that has kind of been lacking the most right now. I mean, yeah, there's some vendors, but even like open source tooling is, I'd argue, is lacking. There's a popular open source protege kind of for creating ontologies. Like, what? Just to kind of wrap up on this topic is, where is your stance on tools? And actually, because there's so many people who are hungry to go build things and startups coming around, like, what is your message for people listening? Is like, this is where you should be investing. Help go do this. Like, go learn, go build tools to go out. Like, just curious to get your take on that.
Tools are difficult. I mean, like, because in the sense that, I mean, like, there has been things, that there have been things going around, for a long time. I mean, you have mentioned Protege, which is still a tool that I use quite often, but obviously, I mean, I'm specialized in ontology engineering. I use it. I mean, there are not so many people, who are working on that. I would actually, I mean, like, claim that the main message for me would be, considering that ontologies are now, I mean, like, an artifact that is being used in almost any project, any software engineering project, let's say, I would just ask for those people who may be building tools for ontology engineering to focus on introducing them, integrating them into the normal software development environments. I mean, I think that's, or software development practices. I mean, even myself, I mean, in my team, we were working on integrating some of our tools in the normal, I mean, like with GitHub, because, I mean, this is what we normally use in our projects. So this could be my main recommendation. It's always difficult because, I mean, there is a part that I consider that requires humans. I mean, this part of agreement still requires humans, which could be assisted by AI tools. And I can imagine, I mean, an agentic AI system, I mean, a ecosystem working on generating agreements. That could be perfectly nice. I mean, and I think that, I mean, it may be coming in the coming future, but still, I mean, in that context, I think that, I mean, what we need is to do this integration. I mean, to ease the integration for those ones who are developing software. Mm-hmm.
All right. Hopefully, people listening will realize that this is where they should be taking advantage on opportunities to go build tools around this. So, all right. Lightning round questions. We got a couple of 4 quick questions here to wrap up. Number 1, will all enterprises need to make ontologies a core practice?
That's a difficult question. I mean, like, I could say probably yes. I mean, it would be a nice practice to do. Obviously, I mean, it will depend on the complexity of the problems that they have to deal with. So my main recommendation would be, if you are an organization that has to deal with many different types of information systems, you have these potential data silos, or you are going to get into other type of inter-organizations. I mean, like other virtual organizations, where many different organizations are working with, as in the tourism domain, as I was discussing before. Then probably, you would need to have some knowledge about ontologies, not necessarily an ontology engineer in your team, but people with ontology engineering expertise over there, which may be also doing a little bit of data governance. They may be also doing a little bit of, I don't know, even web application development. I mean, if you want to have a Swiss knife,
that's actually a good
developers.
It's actually a really good segue into our second question, which is that what do you see as more important? Is it more important that we have more ontology people on the team? And by that, I mean, like, they might be called a knowledge engineer or a knowledge scientist or a taxonomist or a library scientist, or like something like a dedicated kind of ontology role. Or do you think that actually more important is we need to teach like a data analyst and a data engineer and a data scientist and a data architect? We need to teach them how to do ontologies.
I think that both cases are needed. I mean, they are needed. It's quite clear that, I mean, I would really like to see more like an horizontal skill on understanding what ontologies are. I mean, which are the normal practices for building ontologies, for building knowledge. I mean, and representing knowledge across all those ones who are in charge of developing systems, and designing systems, because this could help also quite a lot to understand better how to design systems better. That would be my take. This doesn't mean that, I mean, in some specific cases you will need a dedicated team. I mean, there are large companies that I know. I mean, I have lots of people. I mean, even former students from mine that are working over there that I know. I mean, that they have specialized teams that are working on ontologies, because, I mean, they need to provide all the ontology governance or all the ontology artifacts for the company. Okay. But then the rest of people have to know.
All right, next question. Do domain experts need to be able to interact directly with the ontology?
Well, I like them to interact directly with ontologies, but not at the implementation level. In the same way as, I mean, like a user that is giving you requirements doesn't need to understand anything on Python. Even though, I mean, now with LLMs, you can even program. I mean, like without knowing almost any programming. My take on the interaction is mostly at the, I mean, I usually use at the graphical level. I mean, like you just put boxes, relations, and so on. Humans are very good at understanding diagrams, where you connect concepts. And this is a very nice way to interact with the domain experts. I think that, I mean, that's the best way to generate agreements. The agreements are many times, in many cases, generated at the level of the diagrams themselves.
Yeah, it's the sort of seeing it on the whiteboard or seeing it in the tool, right?
And that's perfect.
Yeah. All right, last lightning round question for you. Do you think executives, so you think like the C-suite and the board, are they going to care about ontologies?
Well, it's a very similar question to, should they care about data governance in their organizations? I could say that. Well, I mean, that's an easy answer. That's an easy answer for you. They should care a little bit. I mean, like, but I mean, in the whole context, I would say that probably in the whole context of data governance. I mean, I normally, I mean, whenever I'm teaching executives, and we are doing quite a lot, I mean, like both at the private and public sector level, I'm just telling, I mean, I'm just introducing the concept of ontologies in the whole context of data governance. And I think that, I mean, it's important for them to understand it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You had a good answer there. Like, do you care about data governance? Like, does the board care about data governance? They care about what it enables. They care about compliance, right?
They care about not getting sued, right? They care about not being like that. Okay. Well, Oscar, I would love to talk hours and hours more with you, but it's time for our wrap up. So takeaways, Tim, take us away with the takeaways.
Yes, I'll pick just a few of my kind of favorite takeaways towards the beginning, and then I'll pass it to you, Juan. You started off by giving us a little bit of history, and you mentioned that kind of starting from the 90s, coming out of some of the like expert systems kind of movement, right? As folks were building AI at that time, they needed to represent knowledge, and so it kicked off this whole knowledge acquisition initiative. And this is kind of where ontology started. And since then, right, it's gone from sort of the toy and prototyping kind of experimental side to now fast forward to today. There's the tools, there's the databases, there's applied practice going on, and it's very tied in with data. Like maybe at first it wasn't as focused on the data, kind of the interconnectedness with data. Now it's very, very interconnected with data. And you gave some really cool examples of, like, for an example, a data center company that you've been working with, or a company that has lots of data centers, that they built ontologies, a network of ontologies of all the things in the data center, the microsystems and the networks and how everything connects, so that they could properly solve root cause of when problems happen, right? Because they're so complicated system. You understand how these things interact with each other in order to really solve that problem. And railway organization, right? Infrastructure for railways. The agency had to homogenize data across 20 different countries in Europe. And each country has its own standards, its own little quirks about, we call it this and you call it that. And we count this, but you guys don't count that. How do you bring that together into a unified ontology? So I thought that was very cool, practical examples. And you mentioned agreements being a very, very important part of ontologies, and perhaps the one thing that's the hardest to automate, right? As AI is becoming a bigger part of this, that you need people arguing with people and making decisions, right? Juan, what were your big takeaways?
We talk about ontology and governance, and like even we talk about data governance, and ontology governance now is also becoming a thing. I mean, you have PhD students working on this, and one of the things different from the past, like what we were doing, what we were not doing with ontology in the past was the governance, right? But that's something that we need to go do right now. And also important to know that governance of the ontology should be tied with the governance process of your organization today. And just remember that these are like software development processes can also be applied to ontologies. That's part of that governance cycle around things. And you talk about LLMs and ontologies. So yeah, LLMs are definitely clearly helping to be able to create ontologies, making it more productive. You can use it to like really help you think about stuff that you were the ideas, right? It helps me define competency questions, which are like use cases to make sure that I didn't miss things. And just the way how it's helping in software engineering, the same thing helps around this too, like even generating tests. And then, yeah, we're seeing ontologies being used inside of LLMs for LLMs to reduce hallucinations through RAG to help drive reasoning. And at the end of the day, the cycle of innovation here is just so fast that kind of research and deployment is happening together so quickly. And then when it comes to tools, yeah, there are specialized tools for ontologies, things like Protege. But what's really important, your position is that we really need to consider ontologies as a software, as like an artifact. That means you have to incorporate like the software development environment cycles, life cycles around that. So just using things in GitHub, and agreement is always going to be a hard thing. Yeah, well, you foresee having like AI tools, agents helping that, but that's a human thing, and it will be great to have agents to do that. But that's something to remember, that humans are involved in there. But
definitely.
Anything we missed?
No, I mean, like you made a perfect summary on this.
All right. Well, just to quickly wrap up, just for folks who are listening, like what's your like one advice, and what resources should they follow if they want to kind of continue learning more about ontologies?
Oh, that's really difficult. I mean, I could just say, oh, come to my master classes on ontology engineering. I mean, we are doing that on our master on AI. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's difficult. I mean, like there are plenty of resources, yeah, that can be used for. I mean, just to continue going on the development. But there are many new resources that are coming up on the use of LLMs for ontology engineering. Yeah. I mean, I would just advise to go through these, I mean, like publications that are coming out right now. I mean, mostly on the research context that are very easy to understand. I mean, I'm pretty sure that folks working on, I mean, or starting to work on ontologies could just get up to speed very quickly. Mm-hmm.
Well, Oscar, thank you so much for giving this condensed but packed and master class of where ontologies, and hopefully people can get a lot of pointers and start kind of learning a little bit more outside of the bubble that they're living in right now.
Nice.
All right, Oscar, cheers. Thank you so much,
Oscar. Cheers.
Bye-bye. I will get my beer now.
All right, cheers.
Bye.